Thank you, everyone, for attending Zulu Platoon's graduation and final project showcase. My name is Francisco, and I'm the lead full-stack software engineer instructor at Code Platoon. I'd like to thank our whole team, our volunteers, the mentors, teaching assistants, and board members who work so hard behind the scenes to make Zulu Platoon a success. Next, I'd like to give a special thanks to our apprenticeship partner, DRW, who committed to hosting a Zulu Platoon graduate for an apprenticeship program after graduation. I'd also like to thank Accenture's dedicated volunteer resume coaches for Zulu Platoon, DocuSign volunteers for participating in our mock interview day, and our guest speakers from Travelers Insurance, whose workshop guided students in enhancing their LinkedIn presence. It is the support from these volunteers and many others that helps provide real-world industry learnings and experiences for our graduates and prepare them for successful careers. For those of you who are not familiar with Code Platoon, we are a nonprofit coding bootcamp with a mission to help veterans, active duty service members, and military families launch successful careers as software engineers. The graduates have just completed an intense, immersive 15-week program. Every day, they have written software and learned new computer science and software engineering concepts and skills. The group projects you will see here this afternoon are the result of the graduates applying what they've learned over the past months. Now, I would like to introduce our class president, Tim Williams. Go ahead.
Close enough. Hi, I'm Tim Adams. I was the class president for the Zulu Platoon. I just wanted to thank all the people that Francisco just thanked and so many more. The TAs, Max, Raven, and James were always available day or night, and that was phenomenal and key, one of the main keys to all of our successes. To Francisco, thank you for being available to all of us and for your skill and patience with us in instructing. You always clarified all the questions that we had, and you were always extremely patient and kind, and that was invaluable. Adam was an incredibly deeply knowledgeable instructor and amazing. Chad for volunteering on his weekends to help us with our AWS prep. And while it wasn't part of the actual Zulu platoon, the Foundations of Programming instructor Guillermo was key to a couple of us having a nice solid foundation before we started. Catherine and Rich on the career services team have been amazing as well, and they'll continue going forward. All of us came together over the last 15 weeks and dove into this course, and it was both interesting and fun, as well as while being challenging. And I know these skills will help us all going forward into the tech space. To all of my classmates, congratulations, and let's get started with the graduation.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim, for your kind words. We will now move on into our presentations. After each presentation, there will be a short time for questions, so feel free to put those in the comments during each presentation. The first group we'll be presenting today will be Puzzlecraft, created by Rachel, Jason Belt, and Morty.
Meet Team Puzzlecraft. Leading our project is Rachel, a Coast Guard veteran with 5 years of experience. Joining her is Jason, bringing 22 years of experience from the Air Force. And finally, Morty, a dedicated Army veteran with 9 years of service. Together, we combined our diverse military backgrounds and a shared passion for tech to build an amazing puzzle gaming platform.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to share a group project with you, which is built to support solo puzzle solving with user profiles and interactive dashboards. Our goal was inspired by Simon Tantham's legendary puzzle collection. This project focused on accessibility, usability, and aesthetic appeal with puzzles designed to be solved right in your browser. During the planning phase of this project, we decided to use token-based authentication with Django to handle user authentication. Django was chosen for the backend due to its robust features and scalability, while React was selected for building a responsive, interactive frontend. Each team member selected 2 puzzles they were passionate about, and we focused on implementing those to create a centralized platform, a one-stop shop for puzzle enthusiasts to solve and enjoy different types of logic games. Now let me give you a quick tour of our web application. If you already have an account, logging in is simple. Just enter your credentials and you're taken straight to your profile page. Otherwise, you can sign up using this link. Once logged in, we land on the profile page. This page displays the user's saved puzzles and provides links to learn how to play the various puzzles offered. These links offer rules and game strategies for the puzzles on the puzzle dashboard. Also on the profile page is an option to update your display name. Now we'll move into the core of the application, the puzzle dashboard. Here, users can browse and access different puzzles with a clean layout and intuitive navigation. Each puzzle can be clicked from the dashboard to launch. In this next part of the demo, I'm going to walk you through the 2048 puzzle feature on this site. If you're not familiar with 2048, it's a sliding tile game where the goal is to combine like-numbered tiles to eventually reach the number 2048. From the puzzle dashboard, I simply click on the 2048 tile to launch the game. The puzzle loads instantly and we're dropped into a clean 4x4 grid, which is the standard size for 2048. The core of the puzzle, the data within the grid, is represented as a 2D array stored in React state using the useState hook. Each cell contains a number and every move updates the state, which triggers a re-render of the grid. The controls are simple. You just use your arrow keys, which we created an event listener for. Each move shifts all the tiles in that direction. If 2 tiles with the same number collide, they merge into one and their values combine. That's it. That's a 2048 puzzle. It's fun, addictive game that fits perfectly into the puzzle dashboard, and it demonstrates the site's interactive capabilities really well.
I currently have a Kakuro game open. Let's generate a new Kakuro game. Let's pause our new Kakuro game. And it's a good time to restart our Kakuro game. And lastly, let's delete our Kakuro game. Now we're back to the original Kakuro game. Now this is the data structure behind our Pixel Puzzle platform. Logged in users have access to all games with progress and scores linked to them. Puzzle data is stored in separate models, each with board data, solutions, and difficulty levels. Nanograms also link to image data via a one-on-one relationship. Puzzle progress uses a generic relation to track user activity across any puzzle type. The structure is flexible, scalable, and ready for new puzzle types.
Hello, my name is Jason Belt, and I'm going to briefly discuss the main development challenges we encountered. One of the early challenges we tackled was implementing token-based authentication with Django REST framework. We ensured tokens were properly generated, stored in local storage, and included in authenticated requests. We also focused on keeping the front end and back end in sync during login and logout, giving users clear feedback and smooth transitions between states. Integrating Django and React required careful setup, configuring cores, defining API endpoints, and handling authentication. One challenge was making sure React updated the UI correctly based on back-end responses. Unexpected data formats or delays sometimes led to unpredictable behavior that made debugging tricky. For version control, we use Git and GitHub, with each team member working on their own branch and submitting pull requests for review. Staying in sync and resolving merge conflicts took coordination, especially across different development environments. We supported this with clear documentation to guide setup, development, and collaboration. Regular team check-ins were a key part of our agile workflow, helping us stay aligned and quickly address any issues or delays that came up during development. This was especially important as we combined multiple games into a single app, which required careful coordination to manage shared resources and dependencies. At this stage, we've been running the project locally, but we are preparing it for deployment. Our next steps include containerizing the app with Docker and deploying it to a cloud platform like AWS. Now I'll walk you through Minesweeper, one of the games that I built. Hi, I'd like to walk you through a full-stack Minesweeper game I built using React on the front end and Django REST framework on the back end. In Minesweeper, your objective is to uncover all the safe squares, those without mines, without clicking on a mine, which ends the game. The front end handles all the gameplay logic, generating the board, placing mines, counting neighboring cells, and managing win-loss conditions entirely in React. This keeps gameplay fast and responsive since there's no need to make round trips to the server while playing. At the end of each game, their scores and difficulty level are sent to the back end and stored in a database regardless of difficulty or if they won or not. So Carol at example.com has played the game 5 times and has 5 different scores. Of course, if she played more than 10 games, only the top 10 scores would be compiled. And if she changes the difficulty to medium, you get more grids and more mines to work through. And you can also flag cells that you think are mines by right-clicking. So to demo the game, this means that you can use process of elimination to determine that 2 of these squares have mines on them, but you want to uncover all of them to win the game. It is fairly hard though. So I might suspect that there's a mine right here, so I'm going to go ahead and right-click, flag that, so I won't mistakenly click on it again. Oops, it looks like I clicked on a mine. However, I did get a final score of 35, and that is now recorded in the user's top scores. This project was a great way to apply full stack concepts in a fun context, building out game logic, managing state across components, and securely connecting to a backend that persists user-specific data for scoring.
In the future, we plan to productionize the application by containerizing it with Docker and deploying it to a cloud platform such as AWS. To ensure the application remains healthy and user-friendly, we will integrate analytics tools like Google Analytics for basic usage tracking and set up error tracking and system monitoring. For the front end, we intend to enhance the user interface and experience using component libraries such as Material UI or Tailwind, while also incorporating interactive elements and feedback mechanisms to improve user engagement. In conclusion, this full-stack application addresses the challenge of generating and tracking progress on dynamic, visually engaging puzzles by combining robust back-end logic with an interactive front-end interface. We've covered its core components and shared some of the challenges we encountered along the way. Looking ahead, we're excited about the potential for further growth and enhancements.
Thank you so much, Puzzlecraft. All right. I have a question regarding your project. What exactly is it that inspired this project? And when you were working on it along the way, did it bring any fun memories from any of these games from back in the good old days?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say Minesweeper certainly did, just because I remember playing it when I was a kid, or back in the 90s, and then and yeah, Minesweeper came with every single system, and then I remember when Windows kind of with their upgrades phased it out, and it was no longer, a game that, came whenever I got a new computer. So it was kind of nice to be able to kind of relive the memories of playing it again when I built it myself through React and bet the back end.
Awesome. Rachel, I believe you wanted to add on to that.
Yeah, I think we all just like playing and solving puzzles, so kind of helped with the project. The fact that we all enjoyed it, also doing it.
Nice. All right. And it looks like we have some questions from outside. Kayla, do you want to present those?
Absolutely. So the first question we received is why did you divide the work the way you did in your group? And would you have done it differently if you could go back?
I think it just kind of made sense. We all also met every morning and discussed, gave status updates if we needed help on anything. But I think it just kind of made sense for us to all focus on a few puzzles we wanted to implement and then combine them in the end.
Did you
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, sorry. The last question, did your final progress differ from what you imagined before beginning the project?
I think our vision was like a little different than how it all came out, but we were satisfied with our MVP in the end.
All right, great. When you mentioned the division of workflow, you guys didn't follow a traditional, hey, you cover down, or you two people cover down on the back end workflow of this, or someone covered down on a specific feature. It was more, hey, someone covered down an entire puzzle. Did you guys, how was that as far as getting involved with the entire tech stack when you were developing your own puzzles?
I was gonna say for the most part, I think it kind of made things easier. Like we had a lot of autonomy over our own games, but of course we still had to come together because I just remember when I was doing the styling for Minesweeper, all of a sudden in another area I saw it kind of jacked up a little, a few things. So we did have to coordinate a little bit as far as that regard, but I did kind of feel it was easier, mostly being self-contained as well as, giving Rachel, I gave Rachel plenty of feedback when it came to the overall interface as far as improvements I thought, we could make, over the few weeks I worked on the project.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on into our next group project here. The next project we'll be introducing is Cityscope, created by Chase, Jack, Noah, and Tim.
Hi, I am Chase Coleman. I am the project lead for Cityscope, the full stack travel planning application, a part of Code Platoon's Zulu cohort. Looking at our project's README file, you have Cityscope as the name of the project, world is waiting, and that is our motto. And then here you have a quick photo to introduce the project, and then below that you have the description. Cityscope is a full stack travel planning app that lets users create accounts, build personalized trips, add stays, activities, and restaurants, and organize everything into daily itineraries. With Google Maps integration, users can explore their destinations and plan with confidence. Below that, we have table of contents, and that's everything inside of this README file. And then below that, we have features, and these are all the features we included in our application. Starting off with token authentication using DRF tokens. We also included an autocomplete location search component, trip creation, itinerary creation, adding stays, restaurants, and activities to a trip and or an itinerary, and exploring with Google Maps integration. Here we have the contributors or the team members, starting with myself, Chase Coleman. I am a Marine Corps veteran. Then you have Tim, who's an Air Force vet, Jack, who's an Army vet, and Noah, who's also an Air Force vet. Below that, you have all four of us and what we worked on inside of the application. Feel free to pause and read if you're interested. And then if you click on our names, that'll take you to our personal GitHub account. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton off to Tim, who's going to show you user registration, login, and manage account information.
Thank you, Chase. As Chase mentioned, my name is Tim. I'm an Air Force veteran, just about to retire after 21 years, and worked on the Cityscope project as the capstone for the Zulu Platoon cohort. So when you first come to the page, you're greeted with the home page, Cityscope, the world is waiting. I worked on this page, designed the navigation bar, the login, logout functionality, and the TripAdvisor API functionality. So from the Cityscope page, you can either click on Login up here on the upper right, or on to the Login or Register button, which will take you to the login page. I'm going to use an account that already exists to demonstrate login functionality. If you get the login credentials incorrect, you'll be greeted with this invalid user's credential message. And when you log in, you have the option to manage your account or log back out. But it immediately dumps you into the trips page where you can go ahead and work on creating trips, the whole point of the application. I'm going to demonstrate the manage account functionality. Brings up a modal here with my user's first name, last name that I registered this account with, and the option to change your password. I'm going to change this name to John Smith, and we'll update that information in the server. When you hit this button, it creates a put request to our API endpoint and updates the information. And then when I go back to manage my account, my information has been updated. My current password is dog. I'm going to change it to password. And this button will similarly put in a put request to the user model to change the password. And there we are. Password has changed. And to verify that, we'll go back to log in under the same account. And the password is not dog anymore. Now it's password. So when you first come to any website, you're not going to have an account. You're going to have to register. So I'm going to just register using my name, Tim. And we're going to go with citydemo@gmail.com. And password's just going to be password. Nice and simple, easy to remember for demonstration purposes. So that registration button, it puts in a post request into our backend, which will create a user account and hash the password. Now that I'm logged in, you can see that I'm Tim and Adams have created the new account. Once you're here, you can create a new trip, and that functionality is going to be demoed by Jack. So take it, Jack.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tim, for handing things off to me. My name is Jack. I am a Army vet, and I was tasked with taking care of our trips page. So I'll go ahead and log in for you guys here. And that will take you to the initial trips page. Currently, this user has no trips, so that's why you see no trips available here. But a user can click the button at the top and start a new trip. So for our trip, let's just say we're going to go to Chicago, and we want to enter in a location. So upon entering the location, there is an autofill feature as well. So Chicago, and what day do we want to start? We're going to start this on May 16th, which is a Friday, and actually our last day here at Code Platoon. So upon hitting create trip, you will see that this trip was generated. We are able to go and delete this if we wanted to. There is a double check feature just to make sure that you are deleting a trip that you want to delete. We can make another trip if we wanted to, so let's do that actually. Be a little bit more specific. We have graduation coming up, so we'll do graduation trip. That is going to be in Chicago. Ooh. And that will still be on May 16th. As a start date, create trip, and then we'll go ahead and actually go in here and delete that trip. A user can also edit the name of the trip. So we'll go in and say Code Platoon graduation trip. Save. And then once you click on trip details, that does take you into the actual trip information in itself, in which I will be handing it off to Chase as he will go into the next process of our application.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. I'm going to go ahead and take over from here. So as a user, you've now created a trip and you have nothing added to that trip. So you want to go ahead and add some locations and places you're interested in to that trip. Go ahead, hit trip details. It's going to take us to this page where this is going to show information on everything we've added to that trip. But as we have no information, let's go ahead and add some things. So hit Explore Chicago. It's going to take us to the Explore page. Load the Google Maps here. Over here, you have your filters, as well as a search bar if you want to type in locations. And you have a map that you can pan around and find places to add to your trip. So first we need a hotel. Let's go ahead and add some hotels. I'm going to hit this checkbox. You can see you get some popped up there. The Central Loop Hotel. You have two links here, one to Google, one to the actual hotel's website. So just to show it works, we'll look at the website. It opens up the hotel's website. And then here we'll open up to Google Maps on the actual Google Maps. But let's go ahead and add it to the trip. You can see the button is disabled while it's adding that location to the trip, so you can't spam click that button. And then say we want to check out the JM Marriott Chicago. We've already checked that before we started the trip. Go ahead and add that. Next, get rid of that filter. Let's check out some other attractions. Let's see. Let's look around. Maybe the Sears Tower. We go ahead and add the Sears Tower to the trip there. You see you get a loading icon as well, and it's successfully added to trip message. Maybe we'll check out Cloud Gate and go see the bean. Go ahead and add that to the trip. And then maybe we want to go and look at the Shed Aquarium. Let's go to the Shed Aquarium and add that to the trip. Awesome. So all that stuff has been added. You now see that you can select locations and add them to the trip from the filter results or on the map itself, but we still have no restaurants. So let's check out some restaurants. Maybe for breakfast, we want to add Yolk to the breakfast or a location of restaurants we're interested in. That's been added successfully. Let's go ahead, maybe Obelix. We'll go ahead and add Obelix as well. Got those done. And let's add one more restaurant. Let's do a filter for this area. Maybe we will go to Portillo's. It's kind of a Chicago staple. We'll go ahead and add that to the trip as well. Get rid of those filters. And you can see the filters does auto open this accordion. And you can also scroll down and see some other results there. It's limited to 20 results. That's what Google's API returns. If you want to go satellite view, you can see the satellite view. If you want to drop the person and get the street point of view, you can also do that. Here you can see I'm in the middle of the street. Hopefully I don't get ran over. And then we will go ahead and exit back out of that. Awesome. So we've added all those locations to the trip. Now we want to see what we've added and assign them to itineraries. So we're going to go over here, hit this button. That's going to take us to the previous page where we can see all the things we've added to that trip. And right here is where I'm going to pass this over to Noah, and he's going to take over from here and show you how this page works.
All right. Thanks, Chase. I'm Noah. I'm a prior active, currently reserve in the Air Force. This is the page that you will create your itineraries. So Chase added a bunch of stays, restaurants for food, activities, and this is where I'm going to be creating my itinerary plans. So when you first create the trip, you start with a default of the day you created the trip. Here I can add more days to the trip, pretty much as you want, and it will auto-populate. And I could scroll down to see the ones below. So let's just keep it neat and do 4 days. So how this works is you want to plan out each day of your vacation or trip. So let's start editing the first day. Each itinerary will have one stay, and you can see that I am updating the stay at the top for that day. And with that said, you can add multiple activities or restaurants that you want to do that day. And I believe I restricted it to 21 activities per day. If you don't want those activities anymore, you can delete them and they will be removed. You can also remove the stay that you chose and restart again. You can add multiple stays for each or you can have one stay per itinerary, as I said before. And you could pick and choose which stay you want for each day. You can keep on adding itinerary activities, restaurants. I just accidentally deleted one from the activities, but let me get rid of these. Let me clean up the itineraries and showcase that again. If I don't want these showing up on the trip view page, I can just get rid of them. If I have a conflicting stay or activities, it won't let me delete them. So I have to remove them from every single card below. Then I'm able to delete that stay. And I think that's really it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and really quick go over the tech stack that we use in our full stack. So in the front end, we have React, Bootstrap, Prime React, Tailwind CSS, and of course, a little bit of CSS. In the back end, we have Django, Django's REST framework, and PostgreSQL for database management. Third-party APIs, we worked with Google Maps JavaScript API and the Google Places to use for location details, as well as TripAdvisor's API for another resource for location details. And then below that, you have a quick instruction and steps of how to get this project running on your personal machine. In the README file, we also included an endpoint library where you can see all the endpoints for our project, a brief summary of what they do, and the type of method that they are. Here we have our stretch goals. The first two main stretch goals that we have are creating multi-user trip planning so that friends can add other friends to their trips and plan a trip together. We also want to integrate AI to generate smart daily itineraries for somebody. So that way, if somebody's creating a trip and they don't know what they want to do, they can press a button and get some stuff filled out for them. For planning, these are things we did before writing a single line of code. And if you take a look here on the left side, you'll see our database schema. So that has the tables in our database, the fields that are inside of each table, and how they are all associated. On the right side, you have feature planning, and these are features we wanted to add into our project. We might have a little bit of time to add, or things that would be nice if time allows. Here we have UI planning, and so we did this again before writing a single line of code. That way, when we started working on the front end, we kind of had a design to go with, what we wanted it to look like, and we weren't going into a blind. As for the major issues we all ran into, I think I could speak for everybody that version control at the beginning of the project was probably the main issue. For about 3 days, we were having a ton of merge conflicts because somehow the dependency files got messed up. There was a lot of moving parts. It was just the general setup was an issue. As for my personal struggles on what I worked on, the Explore page, I had two main ones. The first one was just working with the Google Maps JavaScript API and map component in general, understanding how it worked, what I needed to work with it, and what I needed to give to it and get back from it. The other issue was data manipulation, because the way the Google API holds information and categorizes information about locations is different from the way TripAdvisor categorizes information about locations. So I had to create a bridge between the two, picking and pulling from each of them to fit into what I needed. And that was just something that was an ongoing struggle of dealing with data manipulation. And I will pass on to Jack because I believe he has an issue also.
Hello, you guys. It is Jack again, and I want to go over an issue that I ran into while setting up this trips page. Essentially, when a verified user logged in, it was difficult for said user to see their trips just by going to the trips page. Initially, nothing would show up on the screen, and the user would have to refresh the page in order to be able to see their trips. This essentially happened because the way that I was calling the function to see trips, or what I call fetch trips, I didn't include a token in there. So the page would have to load, and then it would verify that the user was logged in, and then upon refresh, it would have that token to be able to generate the user's trips. So the workaround that was to make sure that the token was included with inside of the function of fetching the trips. And that then fixed the issue to where as soon as the user logged in, if they already had trips, you could see that automatically. Or if they added a new trip, the new trip would populate automatically without having to refresh the page.
Yep, it's Tim again. So going over some of the things that I struggled with during the development, some hurdles encountered and how I overcame them. The TripAdvisor API that we are using limits your calls to 5,000 per month per user before they start charging you. This being an educational project, we didn't want to pay any money for it. So what I decided to do was build a sub-application within the server to track API calls. So each member of the team registered for an API key for free, and then they would register through the endpoint that I created in the server. And every time you used the app, then it would tell you how many calls you had made. Now, 5,000 sounds like a lot, but the way this all works is every single API or every request for a location with photo data associated with it requires you to make a minimum of 3 calls. So if you only called, I'll just go through how it works. Basically, from the front end, a user requests something and it's formatted into an API call. TripAdvisor returns 10 results, 10 location IDs. This is not negotiable. You cannot change it. Then I got those 10 IDs and I had to format for the photos and details, which were each separate API calls. So make the call to the TripAdvisor server again for details on that location ID and for photo, and then come back, combine them all, and then push them back to be processed and displayed to the actual user. So what I built for the TripAdvisor API was, or for the tracker, was it would count every single call made and add those to your total in a pretty simple model here called where your API key was listed, which it would pull from the environmental variable, your key owner name that you registered with, and how many times you use that key, which would start at 0 and then count incrementally up. I didn't use the TripAdvisor API a lot outside of building it. So I only made 765 calls, but some other teammates made calls well over 1,000. And if 4 of us had put all those together, we probably would end up having to pay money, which we didn't want to do. So in addition to that, the way TripAdvisor API works, it does not allow front-end calls. So instead of being able to just make TripAdvisor API calls from the front end, where the user clicks it and it goes straight to TripAdvisor, I had to build a gateway API in the back-end server. And that's what this also demonstrates, in addition to the number of calls that were being tracked. That was something I didn't expect, and I didn't actually understand until I had to start digging into the documentation to find out why my code wasn't working. But I did overcome it. It worked out, so I got to learn something from it, and that was a positive experience. That's about all I had as far as difficulties and overcoming them. Thanks for your time.
And that is our presentation for Cityscope, our group project. Thank you for watching, and we appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you so much, Cityscope. Let's go ahead and open up the floor for some questions. I see we got one from the outside. Can you present that question, Caleb?
Absolutely. So the question was, let's see. Shoot, I totally lost it. 1 second. Okay, there we go. This is very visually appealing. How hard was it to integrate the APIs?
I can speak on my portion. I worked with the Google Maps API and component. That was fairly difficult because I had to understand how to work with it according to Google's documentation, and how to update the map as it was being interacted with in terms of panning, zooming in or out, or selecting locations. I had to learn how to interact with that and get information from just clicking on the location on the map. It didn't automatically give me the information. I had to do more API stuff with that.
From the other side, the TripAdvisor side, everything returned from TripAdvisor was in JSON format and not in arrays. They were all objects nested within objects, and it's a little bit different to have to go through and iterate through those. It's a lot easier to do with an array. So it took a little bit of trial and error and learning to figure out how to do that effectively, to be able to share that with Chase working with the Google API, because he had to merge both of them in order to create the information for the user.
Awesome. We got one more question. If you continue to build this out, how hard would it be to add a site like Eventbrite or Meetup to capture and provide real-time local activities?
It wouldn't be that hard. I've actually worked with like an Eventbrite style API before, where it gets information about local stuff happening. It's not terribly hard. I would say it'd be easier than the other 2 APIs we work with, definitely.
Awesome. That's all the questions. Thank you so much, Cityscope.
All right, fantastic. Let's go ahead and move on into our final presentation, and this will be by Code Guru, which was created by Jason Anderson, Stephanie, and Kenny.
So, hi there. My name is Kenny. I'm one of the members of Code Guru. Today, I'm going to be presenting a little bit of what Code Guru is, what we did to develop this web app, and right now I'm going to hand it off to Stephanie to continue presenting our team members.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie. I did the front end, Kenny did the back end, and we have Jason Anderson who came up with the initial idea for Code Guru, but he got a full-time job, so he left. And now we can show you the Code Guru README.
So going over a couple features of what Code Guru is all about, one of the biggest ones has to be a in-browser playground for just helping out just newer developers or newer people into coding, just get help with some of their code. The other one would obviously be the daily challenge. As just a developer, one of your like pitfalls is that you never do enough leak code questions. So we have a daily challenge feature to help out just developers just hone their skills. And in the progress of honing your skills, one of the biggest things is tracking your progress, which we made it a little bit interactive and a little bit fun to make it easier to know what challenges you did, to just make it easier to kind of have the motivation to go forward. And in the exact same fashion, going forward in tech, that means that there's so many new things coming out. So we got a daily newsletter that kind of gives you like the insights of like new technologies coming out, AI, and just general stuff in just the field of just computing. And right now I'm going to pass it off to Stephanie to present Code Guru.
So this is our homepage, and I have a few features listed out, and you can hover over each of them. It'll give you a little description on each feature. Once you click on it, it'll take you to where that feature is located, but you have to be logged in to do that. So let me log into Penny Welcome. Let me go back to that homepage, and I can click the coding mentor, and it'll take me to the playground page. So over here, you can put some sample code in. Let me take this function that adds 2 numbers. This is going to be in Python. And let me ask AI, how do I make this better? Like that. The answer is loading. And once it's loaded, it'll give you the response. So now let me show you the challenge progress. So once you do a daily challenge, you'll unlock one of these items. So right now this account has only 9 unlocked out of the 10. And once you click one of the items, you can see that challenge that you completed. And then for the uncompleted one, it'll give you an alert. And I will hand it off to Kenny to show you how the daily challenge would work.
So right now I'm going to present the daily challenge page. This page very much uses LeetCode's API, and it uses DeepSeek's API to take LeetCode's information and make it into a way that is formatted properly. This will take every daily challenge, clean it up, reformat it in an HTML string that gets parsed into a JSX string through DeepSeek's AI and make it into a way that is completely formatted to every daily challenge, no matter what it is. So once the first one is made, which was a while ago, each subsequent daily challenge will look in the exact same style format. So this is how it would look. And let's test out our answer. So to kind of present how the answer verification works, right now I'm going to use this library called Monaco, which ends up being a component that we are able to use as a code editor, that all the code in this Monaco component gets taken, sent to our backend, and gets sent into ChatGPT along with the inputs and along with the LeetCode question to verify if this is a valid response for this LeetCode question. And if we run it, this all gets sent to the backend, gets verified, and it comes back as it is a valid answer. And when it is a valid answer, it updates the challenge progress. So it means that since this is a valid answer, we unlocked a new weapon. And since we had previously 9 unlocked weapons, this should be our 10th one. get a special surprise when we go to our challenge progress. We unlocked our Mr. Shifu. And that's kind of the back and forth of how daily challenge and daily progress works together. Since if I click the Ninja Stars, this is exactly the challenge that we finished. We can click off of it to get out of it. And to go to our newsletter, this is something that is prompted from, once again, ChatGPT in our backend, that this gets a new prompt from ChatGPT every single day to get just the daily news of what's going on in the tech space, which can be useful as a new developer, especially since the hardest part is one, learning how to code, but the hardest part besides that has to be just keeping up with everything that's going on with just the AI space, like Meta's Llama 3 Pro model. Yep, their AI model got new updates. I would not have known that. And from there, Stephanie is going to present just a little bit of a breakdown of just the front end code through our just README.
Yes, so Kenny created two markdown or a few markdown files for each end. So here is a markdown for the front end. We used React, we used Tailwind, of course we used the React router DOM for routing, and did a lot of HTML parsing. We used the Monaco editor for that in web code editor, and then we used Axios or Fetch for requests. So we had lots of files. I tried to keep everything in a page folder, and then here's our components. Let's see. I think that's about all. So now Kenny will talk about the back end.
So I did a big portion of just the back end code, while Stephanie did a big portion of the front end code. It very much was a divide and conquer style of development. And a couple issues that we had, especially in the back end, was just being able to communicate with other APIs. I can very much attest to that we want to have a lot of the AI logic happen in the back end, but there was many issues in using DeepSeek, ChatGPT in process of integrating them, but also getting proper responses from them since we want to handle everything in the back end. It very much required a lot of prompt engineering, just having to query the ChatGPT API like 10 times until like we get the proper response. And from there, making sure the response is consistent, which for our newsletter and for our daily challenge was very important since we're trying to keep a consistent format. It was important to be able to write a prompt once that takes in certain parameters information and just give us back a HTML string that can be rendered anytime, any day going forward in a similar style. And that was a big portion of the back end. From there, Stephanie can explain some of the issues that we had with the front end.
So one issue I encountered with the front end was trying to make the website responsive. So Kenny worked on making the newsletter page responsive. I had a hard time doing the challenge progress because these are all placed images, and I couldn't get it in the exact location based on the background. And the daily challenge is pretty responsive too. But the challenge progress page was one big struggle, so that is something that we need to continue working on.
Yeah, and for some future features that we had in mind, we very much want to speed up the responses from the AIs. We want to clean up a lot of the backend code that was written by me because it's very much just make it work, and a lot of that causes delays in response times. Beyond that, bigger features is making it for people to be able to track more than 10 challenges, kind of having like a Mario style like biomes. Like this is the home biome. There's like more biomes that have like their own like 10 challenges just continuously generated by AI. So you can continue going forward as far as you want, since as I'm tracking us up today, there's like 1,000 or like 3,000 leak code challenges. So being able to make that AI generated would be a huge convenience for us. Beyond that, just making just certain features faster, cleaner, or more responsive is a lot of what our future features are about. And at the end of the day, we just want to give a big thanks to Code Platoon, Adam, Francisco, Raven, and Max just for being such incredible instructors and just helping us get started in our developer careers and giving us advice and help that will continue just developing us forward in our careers. I can say I'm very thankful. Stephanie is very thankful. And I know everybody else in the classroom is just thankful to be here. And it's kind of sad seeing that this is our final project, but I hope to see you guys on the other side of all of these leak code questions.
All right, thank you so much, Code Guru. Let's hear some questions.
Awesome job, Code Guru. The first question, amazing project with only 2 team members. Who created the backdrops and characters?
I used ChatGPT to create everything that was used in there. And then for like the locked weapons, I used LunaPic, which is an online photo editor, to gray out the coloring and make things transparent.
Awesome. Another question, kind of in a similar vein. Where did it go? It's crazy only 2 people built this. How did you handle the workload together?
Honestly, that one was one of the better parts of this project. I very much believe I have no style or no sense of the design when it comes to the front end. And me and Stephanie very much just she did the front end, I did the back end, and it just ended up being that we both like what we do respectively. So we just it's continued from there. I enjoyed being up until like 2 in the morning just using ChatGPT for the back end, and I feel like for her it was amazing just designing, and that's what honestly let us just make so much progress.
Awesome. Sounds like a match made in heaven. I'm actually going to ask a question because I'm curious. You both mentioned using AI as part of your workflow. How did you utilize it? Do you have any like best practices on using AI in these sort of projects for maybe future Code Platoon students?
I would definitely say exploration and acceleration. Not you do not want to avoid what you don't know. You want to use AI as a way to speed up what you already know. But also, I feel like a bad practice has to be being just copying and pasting. Even though it was so easy to do that, I had to tell ChatGPT explain to me everything before I was willing to even like use any of the code, because there was a couple of times where it was gonna have me configure my whole thing, and I asked it to explain it to me, and I realized I was just gonna break my whole code base.
Absolutely. I know ChatGPT can make stuff up sometimes, so definitely checking that is so important. One last question that snuck in under the wire, and then we'll move on. Was a leak code API used? They missed, and they also missed how the daily question was requested, and would like you to explain that again real fast.
I think I can take this one since I was working on the back end. Uh, I use a third-party API that, in a sense, steals leak codes request data being passed to. It basically hijacks leak code's own API through a separate third-party API that's able to get all the data for the daily challenges And from there, I kind of steal their data and I use it in our API. So it's kind of like a thief stealing from a thief from stealing from another thief. And from there, it's just using AI to kind of clean up the HTML and also giving us example inputs, example outputs. But yeah, it's like we're stealing from stealers.
Love it.
Borrowing, technically. Let me say that, borrowing.
Sounds like the internet at large. Thank you for answering. That was all of our questions. I'm gonna check once more just to make sure. Yep, that was all of our questions. So back to Francisco.
All right. Thank you so much, Code Guru. Fantastic project. This concludes the presentation portion of our program, but there are still a few things left before we conclude. We would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the hard work and long hours put in by our TAs, Raven Palanki and Max Wright. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication to the success of our Zulu Platoon students. Now we're going to go ahead and open up the floor for the instructors. These were the two instructors that worked closely with Zulu Platoon, Adam Kahan, who unfortunately will not be joining us today, and myself, Francisco Avila. As the lead instructor of the Full Stack Immersive program, I'd like to thank all of you that were here on a daily basis. The times that I got to interact with all of you were fantastic, and I want everybody to just make sure you take a pause at some point within the next couple of minutes, within a couple of hours, and think back to when you first started the program. The first couple of days where we went over JavaScript and Python fundamentals, and everything just seemed incredibly overwhelming. Hours upon hours of lecture, and look at the things that you're building now. All right. You're building these applications, and the transition that you've made in your professional development in 15 weeks is incredible. And you should make sure that you give yourself the correct value for what you've done and what you've accomplished here. It is truly self-rewarding for me as an instructor when I receive questions from students where they're asking me questions that are so difficult that me as an instructor, I don't know. I really don't know the answer. And I have to work with somebody or try to find resources that I can get to you all. That really helps me out, and it makes everything worth it as an instructor. So thank you so much. Thank you all for everything that you've done. And I know all of you are going to go on to do bigger, greater things out there. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and move forward and start our closing ceremonies. Cue the music here. On your Bluetooth, more. I don't know. I would also like to take this moment to give a special recognition to our honored graduates for Zulu Platoon. Our honored graduates for Zulu Platoon were Rachel Kemi, Jason Belt, Tim Adams, and Jason Anderson. All four of these students were able to achieve 100% scores on all 5 of their assessments, as well as a 100% clear attendance throughout the entire cohort. Thank you so much for your efforts, and I can't wait to see what you all do in the near future. Congratulations, Zulu Platoon. This concludes our ceremony for today. Thank you for participating in today's events, and once again, congratulations. All right. We could clap if we want to clap. Anybody? No? Yeah, there you go. Got a couple people going.